Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back for another episode of the Buckeye Roast. It's your boy Ron James here with my guy QP Ski. Q, how you doing?
Tired. Exactly how I'm doing. You tell by all this. This is how I'm doing. It looks crazy, but we good. We in here. It's a Tuesday, so we survived the weekend.
Yeah, it's like the first day that I don't feel like death doing this show in like, I don't know, 2 weeks.
Mm.
So I can't speak for Q, but I am not feeling too bad this morning. We got plenty to get into, a huge national slate to discuss. Tuesday is when we really dive into the national landscape. But as you see on the graphic, we have a special guest and we will waste no time getting them up here. Our guy Terry T of College Football Stop and also of the Fans Edge on Wednesdays here on this platform with our guy Cleveland Mike. Terry, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How's your morning going, brother?
Not too bad, not too bad, man. We had a ton to talk about last time you were on and didn't nearly get through enough. I even
Yeah.
stayed past 9 o'clock. I told my manager, I said, look, our guy Terry's here. We got a lot to talk about. You guys are just gonna have to wait.
I
So we
don't
had to
believe
bring
that for
Terry.
a
Tap.
second.
Let's go.
We had to bring Terry back to talk about Buckeyes, but we got a ton of national stuff to talk about. He's not Buckeye stop, he's college football stop, so he knows all things college football as well. That's why we got him here with us, but we got some house cleaning to get to. First, a shout out to our guy Dylan, the first one in the chat this morning. We see Potch out there. Shout out to the members. And we got a new member, our guy Charles Green, OG, been supporting us forever. We appreciate it, continuing to do it as a member. We are getting to get some member stickers in there this week, and hopefully come up with some new content here in the next week or so. Thought we were going to lock it in with just this slate. A little bit of changes to the schedule, and definitely want to bring some new content for the members here. So yeah, if you support what we're doing over here and you like what you see, you become a member. Go ahead and drop super chats, whatever you want to do, however you support, or retweet us on the timeline. I mean, we got 30, 40 people watching here on YouTube now, a couple hundred on Twitter. So if you have a moment, make sure you like that video, retweet, subscribe. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you throw a retweet on that video. And Q, I mean, I think that's all we have for housekeeping if you want to jump right into the national show.
Yeah, don't read the chat, Dylan. Dylan's
Ron
out here.
stream with no hat for the members, man. That's you have to pay for an OnlyCams account for that one.
Hey, I'll do it if you do it, Ron.
that member price gonna be going way up. When I quit, they're gonna be like, man, what happened to Ron? He used to have a cool channel with the guys. They used to do a great show. It's like, oh man, it's on OnlyFans streaming without his hat on now. Like that's the only way. That's the only way you're getting one of those streams, man.
I'll say, don't worry, guys. I'll jump in too. It'll be the trio. Don't even worry about it. Oh man. Okay. Let's jump in here. So some national news. I'll start with some sad news, man. Dikembe Mutombo passed away yesterday from brain cancer. I know all of y'all watch sports, so I'm sure y'all watch some hoops. So unfortunate to hear that, but I will start with that. R.I.P. to the legend.
I got a quick
Um,
Mutombo question for you before we move on because I want to know if you have ever heard a better pickup line than Mutombo's pickup line when he walks in the club. Have you ever seen that story?
no, what was it?
They said bro would walk in the club, obviously a giant, so everyone could see him, walk in the club and just spread his arms and say, "Who wants to sex Mutombo?" And then would just walk out with like 8 girls.
Dear
How
Jesus,
legendary is that?
Can't
you
beat
got it.
that.
You got it.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
I did. If I did that in the club, no one would even see me. They'd be like, "Did someone say something?"
I get punched.
You're lucky to walk out the club without handcuffs. You tried. Here we go. R.I.P. to the legend, man. Unfortunate to hear that. Okay, so some college football news. Start with this, Terry. I'll start with you. The SEC and the Big Ten are looking to hatch four automatic bids to the new playoff contract in 2026. Currently, it's states at 12. I think they're trying to move it up to 16. So at least right now, that's probably looking at half the slate. Do you like this? Hate it? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I love that actually. I think it's time for the SEC and the Big Ten to flex their power. You know what I mean? That's two best conferences in college football. The likelihood of you getting a national champion from any other conference other than those is very low, anyways. So I like it, man. They need to flex their muscle and kind of be like, look, we're going to run the show now, and this is how we're going to do it. So,
Ron.
No, I agree with Terry. It's time for the Big Ten and the SEC to start playing hardball with the rest of these people, because at the end of the day, it's going to become a two conference format, and these are the two conferences that make all the money. We talked about it yesterday on the show when we were looking at the AP poll. Was 4 of the top 5 teams in the country right now are SEC teams. How do you not give them 4 auto bids at this point? I feel like it just leaves the opportunity and the door open for a team that doesn't deserve to get in the name of fairness, when we haven't seen any of these teams that everyone is clamored to get in. Oh, they deserve. The only team that actually deserved to get in, that didn't get in, that might have made some noise, was the 2018 UCF national champions, and they still won the Natty. They have a trophy to show for it. So outside of them, I feel like they've gotten the national champion right with a limited format. And now that you're going to expand it to a bunch of other teams, but not include the conference, and like, I love the Big Ten. I like to be a Big Ten homer. Not the SEC right now. Like, you look at the top teams in that conference, you look at the top teams in our conference. If anyone deserves an auto bid, it's them. I like that the Big Ten is coupling in with them, but I mean, what is the argument against the SEC having 4 auto bids? Because I couldn't think of the last time, if you expanded out to 12, that you would see 4 SEC teams in there. And you're like, what the hell are they doing in there?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, you have Texas, Georgia, Bama, all right there bidding for the top team. Obviously, Georgia takes a step back now, but that's 3 right there. And you're telling me, they only get one more team? It's a tough break to make. We will see how the Big Ten handles the schedule later on and see which cream rises to the top. But certainly, I have no problem. If you're going to go to 16, 4 teams each, and let's roll from there. I think Terry, you got a thought there?
Yeah, I mean, this is like kind of the same thing Ron said, but also, Q, if they do make this change, maybe we'll get some interesting matchups. Maybe if the Big Ten and the SEC start to work together more, maybe we'll start seeing those conferences play each other more in the regular season.
That's a great point that Terry makes there, because I feel like right now with the current format, everybody's like, schedule cupcakes and get in. Ohio State didn't intentionally have a cupcake schedule this year. The Washington game gets canceled. You look at Michigan's schedule last year, not a very tough slate outside of the Ohio State game, and they're able to win the national championship. There's really no incentive, especially with the lack of auto bids, for these bigger conferences to schedule out of conference games against other national powers. And if you open up the automatic bid, and okay, you take the risk of running the table in your conference, or maybe losing one game in your conference and you lose to an Ohio State, you lose to a Michigan, a Penn State, something like that, and you're still able to get in, but you're not de-incentivized from scheduling harder games. And I feel like giving those auto bids would present bigger in-season games. And I feel like we're moving closer to like I said earlier, the 2 conference format. The closer we get to that, it'll give us more opportunity for that crossover play, and teams won't be scared to play each other in the season with the thought of, if I lose, I'm out. So I like the auto bid idea, and I think it'll give the opportunity to see better in-season games. I mean, you look at some of the games that we've seen in the SEC so far this year, like Georgia, Alabama. I'd like to see that every year. I'd like to see Georgia and Ohio State play in the regular season. So I think the more that they condense this college football format and stop pretending like a lot of these teams are actually competing for the same type of national championship, I think it'll open up the regular season and make it even more exciting product. I love last week's slate of games, and if we could have a schedule like that year round, it'd be great.
Yeah, I'm with both of you. I would love to see. I think we all have questions about Ole Miss and Tennessee, and Ole Miss just answered a few. But I'd love to see them travel to Michigan or something of the sort and get some of these mix and matches. So definitely, I agree with you both there. We will see if we get better if this does go through. Okay, so moving on, your boy Arch, man, get back in here. Your boy Arch Manning. He makes the Pro Football Focus national team. We talked about Arch for years and years and years. We got 2 weeks of a taste of him. Quinn Ewers will be back. So I just want to ask you both real quick: do we underrate Arch in recruiting? Did we give him too much sass because he's come in and he's dancing, he's throwing TD, he got swag, he pulling up. What's good with Arch, Terry? Let me know.
I think the system that Sark's running out there is very quarterback friendly, and it's hard to say that because you don't want to take anything away from the kid. You know what I mean? Because obviously he looks like a baller. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Do we play them at OSU next year, or is it at Texas?
I think they come.
I think they come here. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the shoe next year. I don't know, man. I think the kid's going to be really good. I think from what I've seen from him so far, he looks better than what I expected.
Yeah. Ron?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty disappointed in myself when it comes to my evaluation of Arch Manning. I don't know how many of you out there have a subscription to Ron 3, but the Ron 3 rankings had Arch Manning not as a 5-star coming in out of that class. I thought the best quarterback in that class was Dante Moore. I liked Nico a lot. Wasn't overly high on Arch Manning. I bought into the hype that he wasn't playing great competition and didn't think that it would take him a minute to get it started. I didn't think that he would be bad, but I did not think that he would live up to the Manning name like the way that he is. And I think that Texas is going to be in great hands for years to come once he takes over the reins there. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see Arch come to Columbus because I think it's going to be a huge matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad I didn't talk crazy on Arch like some members of Best Damn Media, so I don't have to hide my tail as much.
You were too busy printing up Mike Norvell T-shirts and celebrating his extension.
That was before the time of Mike Norvell. But
I do think real quick, Q. I do think that even though Sark makes things super easy on his quarterback, I do think we kind of have the perfect DC to defend that style offense. As long as Jim Knowles is here next year, as much as I give Jim Knowles shit, I do think that for that style offense, what they like to run, I think Jim Knowles really give them problems. So.
We will certainly find out next season. All right, let's jump into freshman standouts, and I'll run this real quick because there's a discussion we need to have. So freshman standouts came out this week. I'll run down this list real quick. Ryan Williams, of course. Jeremiah Smith, of course. Caden Durham from LSU. Colin Simmons has been a constant on this list, so I'll have to tune in and watch him play a little more because it sounds like he's having quite the season at Texas. Xavier Brown, name we're familiar with. Michael Hawkins, another name that's been in the spotlight lately. Brian Wesco and Dylan Raiola. Good to see there are the Big Ten guy in there. So first thing I'll say is Michael Hawkins makes the list. Is it over for Jackson Arnold down in Oklahoma? Because that's not good for him.
No. Hey, I'm not trying to get copyright, but man, bro is out of there. You better learn a new fight song, buddy, because the transfer portal is calling.
Yeah, not looking good for him. But the talk we need to have is on the next graphic. Obviously, the two receivers balled out this weekend. Ryan Williams went insane against Georgia. Well, not that one. Yeah, that one. There you go. Ryan Williams went insane against Georgia. Jeremiah Smith balled out against Michigan State. My first question for you two is who is having the better season right now?
The guy that played for SFE. That's an easy question.
No, I'm not asking Ron. Terry.
Listen, I was going to let him get it off and then tell him I disagree. So I'm actually going to go with Ryan Williams on this. And the reason I feel like I kind of learned my lesson with Devontae Smith because I looked at Devontae Smith and I'm like, man, that guy's too small. He's not going to make an impact like some of the bigger receivers. And then he just was completely dominant at Alabama. That's kind of what Ryan Williams is looking like over there, man. He's looking like a very young Devontae Smith. And honestly, I'm just going to give him his flowers, man. That kid is a baller. And, to do that in a big game against Georgia is a whole nother thing than what Jeremiah Smith has had an opportunity to do so far. Now, granted, if we go out and play against Oregon and Jeremiah Smith puts 200 on their head, then we're going to be having a different conversation. But he's had the opportunity and he took the opportunity. So I have to go with Ryan Williams as of right now.
Okay, Ron, why is Jeremiah Smith having the better season?
Because I'm a hater. That's why. Jeremiah
Because
Smith.
SFE.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremiah Smith played for SFE and goes to Ohio State, bro. I don't care. that could say 1,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, and I'd be like, bro. But did you see the one-handed catch?
Oh
Like,
my God.
bro's out here catching the ball with 2 hands. Like, what do you put a loser?
And he was the number 1 recruit, Ron. I know how you feel about that.
Yeah, exactly, bro. You know how I feel about the number 1 overall recruit. No, it is. It's amazing what Ryan Williams is doing at Alabama, and it makes you wonder, what does this Alabama team look like without him if he doesn't enroll early? I just heard, I don't know if you guys have watched the Alabama game, but they say it every other play. I don't know if you guys were familiar. Ryan Williams is 17. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he's only 17. They mentioned it on the broadcast, I don't know, about 462 times. But this kid's not turning 18 until February. The fact that he's going to play every game this year while he's still 18 is commendable. Like, what he's doing is, I'm almost at a loss for words, because at 17 years old, with the expectations that we had for Jeremiah, I mean, we just heard Geno Smith say 2 weeks ago he's going to be the greatest wide receiver ever, and here we are having a conversation about a 17-year-old wide receiver and asking if he could potentially be better. You can't discount anything that he's doing right now, and like what Terry said, it's like the Devontae Smith, but I mean, it took Devontae Smith how many years to get it going, and he was still skinny. And people were having those questions about his weight and ability to hold up an SEC play. And Ryan Williams is doing it at a smaller size at 17. So I have no concerns that they're going to be able to pack the weight on him and have him. Well, I don't know if they're actually pack the weight on him, but they're gonna get his weight up and have him playing at a weight that's sustainable in the SEC here in the next few years. So I think the sky's the limit for that guy. And man, talk about a loaded draft class. Like, if I'm a GM, I'm fucking saying skip everything. I'm going to watch this 25 class because it is absolutely loaded. The receivers, the quarterbacks, you're gonna have Raiola, Colin Simmons, Jeremiah, Ryan Williams. Like, I can't think of a year in college football where we've had this much explosive talent from a freshman class contributing this early, and I couldn't tell you the last time.
Yeah.
Don't you think maybe that has to do? Sorry, Q. Don't you think maybe that has to do with like NIL and like talent spread now, where these kids are going places? Like, think about Dylan Raiola, dude. In the past, he goes to Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. He sits the bench for a year or two. We don't even know that he's as good as he is.
Absolutely. NIL has played a huge factor in it, and I think it's balanced the sport a ton and brought that juice back that, like, I don't know about you guys, like, I'm an NFL fan, but like, unless I'm like hate watching someone from the AFC North or like betting on the game, my Steelers aren't playing. I'm like, well, whatever. Like, I'll watch the football because it's on, but like, no rooting interest. Like, bro, I'll watch Colorado, I'll watch Nebraska, I'll watch USC, I'll watch those cheaters up north. Like, there's just so much excitement around the sport and so much talent spread out that, like, it feels like any game that you put on around the nation that, like, Ashton Genty at Boise State. I'm loving the distribution of talent, and it feels like for a while people talked about the college football playoff, and it took away the excitement from the rest of the sport because people only cared about players and teams that were in contention for the college football playoff. And I feel like this season feels like the first season in the playoff era where there are storylines from the bottom of the sport all the way to the top. And whether you're watching a ranked game or an unranked game, there's so many storylines and great players to follow in the sport. I feel like despite all of people's concerns, the conference realignment, the NIL, I feel like with all the craziness, there's still the product that they're putting out on the field week in and week out is amazing. Probably maybe the best in the college football playoff era.
And Ron, honestly, it needed to happen for me, dude. It's so refreshing because if anybody follows me on Twitter, you know that I'm the biggest hater of the COVID eligibility era of college football. I cannot stand it. I think that the overall play of college football teams has gotten worse because the only thing they care about is experience and not talent. And we got 5th and 6th year players all over all these teams. Granted, it made the teams better maybe in terms of like I don't know. It made them better, but maybe they were just not as exciting. And I'm just super happy that college football is kind of getting back to its roots. And you got freshmen out here balling. You got sophomores out here balling. 5th and 6th year dudes are off to their daily jobs that they're supposed to be at. And we're getting back to what college football is all about.
Yeah, there we go. So quick question for each of you for this. Projecting out to the end of the season, I'll start with Jeremiah Smith first. Do you think, and Terry, just a quick answer, do you think he has an All-American season this season or even ends up in New York?
Yes.
Ron.
Does Ryan Williams end up in New York?
Jeremiah Smith, All-American season or even end up in New York?
All-American season, potentially end up in New York? No. I feel like between Travis Hunter and all of the quarterbacks, I just don't see an opportunity to that. I did want to get to a note in the chat from D. Sanchez. Texas is recruiting. Ohio commits hard. They are late to the party, but they're recruiting hard. Shout out to Mama Sanchez in the chat. That's not good to hear. Q has had a saying about Ohio State recruiting. We don't do the flipping. They do the flipping to us. When you see a comment like that, does it worry you? You saw the Buckeyes have a little bit of a slow end to the recruiting cycle during the summer. They cancel their summer cookout at the end of the year to give a week off to the staff. Really not much noise around recruiting. Terry, off the top of your head, can you think of who? McFarland, the last commitment, the tackle for, yeah. So like since the summer wrapped, I don't think the Buckeyes have landed anyone to the class outside of offensive linemen, have we?
And to be fair, I mean, there hasn't been a ton of movement in recruiting overall since then. You know what I mean? So I think Ohio State's done well with the current class that they have, Ron. And I don't really want to try to give them too much flack for it. Even on the O-line, you know, I think maybe they need to add 1 or 2 guys before the cycle's over. I think that was something that you pointed out before, like give me 2 more bodies and then, you know, be like a good class. But I mean, it's definitely concerning, you know, what Ms. Sanchez is saying there, because Texas is they're buzzing right now, man. In the NIL era, it was almost impossible for Texas to not be back. You know what I mean?
Q, what is the net number of recruits between flipped and we flipped? Do you think we get how many do you think we flip versus how many do you think are flipped from our class? With how good Ohio State's class is, I was concerned there about oh my God, I'm blanking on the name here. Not the who's the Naeem Offord. I'm like, who's the not Devin, the other 5-star corner in the class. Naeem Offord was just at the Auburn game, and I believe Auburn has lost every game that he has been on campus for. So I don't know how high the vibes are on these visits, but everybody knows that when teams lose on these recruiting visits, it doesn't leave the greatest taste in recruits' mouths. So I'm hoping that while they're on these visits that these teams are losing and the Buckeyes are able to retain this class. Are you guys concerned about losing any people? And do you have any faith in the Buckeyes being able to steal a flip before the end of the year?
I mean, I would say the chance of flipping versus getting flipped is probably a 90% they'll flip versus the 10% will get a guy in. But I mean, this class has seemed lock solid. I said earlier in the year, I don't think Naeem Offord jumps out, and Auburn has backed me up, there with their showing so far. So currently, I think we're all right now. Once it gets closer to signing day, and people be like, "Yeah, we kind of need this guy. What can we? Hey, Jim's car dealership. What can we do?" It gets a little more concerning there, but right now I feel solid about the class and the guys we have.
Yeah, I think both will probably happen. I mean, we'll probably end up losing somebody to a flip, but I think that we're moving a little bit different this year, and I think we will end up flipping at least one guy, and I think we're going to flip somebody from one of the big time programs. Not just like how we usually go in late.
Big time program?
Huh?
Are we calling Auburn a big time program?
We owe them one.
From who?
We lost what's his name 2 years ago, the cornerback.
The one that
Oh,
flipped
I know you're
onside
talking about.
again?
You know who I'm talking about. I can't forget his name.
I mean, well, they did just take Blake Woodby from us. That was a flip.
That's a little different. I forget
I
his
forget that
name.
guy's name too. I
Yeah, you
know
know
who
who
it
I'm
is
talking
though.
about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to move on to Ohio State this season, and I guess we'll stick with the cornerback position. Our guy Goje liked the title. Does Ohio State have concerns at cornerback? And I see Terry sitting up in his seat because I put his guy right on the graphic because he seems to be the one under the microscope. So I'll just open the floor to you, Terry. Defend your man, Iggy. Like, you have been out on a limb for Davison Igbinosun since he got here. That has been your guy. I said that I could take it back to the moment that this program changed and I felt that we were going to win a national championship is when I saw that they let Bro come and do his recruiting visit and do his photo shoot with no shirt on, a shiesty, and a gold chain.
Yep.
I said, no swag, you is gone. We got the vibes back here in Columbus. A lot of criticism of Iggy after the game this past weekend. Are you concerned about what you've seen so far out of the cornerbacks, in particular, Davison Igbinosun, your guy?
Absolutely not, man. I have zero concern, honestly. I think Iggy is one of those guys who is a proven player. You know what I mean? We don't get concerned about proven players. He's going to be fine. And in terms of the overall cornerback room, the cornerback room is like, if I told you right now that we were playing against a team with good receivers, would you be scared? I don't think anyone would be scared. We're going to be all right. So Ohio State's cornerback room is not a concern to me. As far as Davison Igbinosun, I mean, if you look back to last year, the beginning of the year, I think he was giving up like a touchdown a game. The end of the year, he wasn't even giving up catches in games. And I expect that kind of leap from him again this year. I expect, the beginning of the year, we're going to be doing a little bit of different things with the defense, kind of getting in the swing of things. And then once we start getting into the meat of the schedule, I expect Davison Igbinosun to be a lockdown corner, just like he has been in the past. So I don't know, Ron. Like I said, I do feel the need to defend Iggy, but at the same time, I also feel like everybody knows deep down that Iggy is really that guy, and you don't take him off the field. Am I wrong about that?
I agree with everything until the very last part. I think Iggy adds something to this defense that people do forget about a lot. And I mean, last year he was third in tackles. He is huge in the run game. It's like having almost a linebacker at corner. His physicality, his want to come up and support in the run game is huge and cannot be discounted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But and I may not have all the answers. Again, just a Hall of Fame Twitter coach, 20th ranked team in my Xbox dynasty. Okay, not the craziest resume. I don't get paid $2 million a year to scheme up defense, but there is, and I don't know how you do it. I don't know what the split is, what the distribution is. Q, you can chime in, both of you. It feels like we're missing something with Jermaine Matthews on the field. I know Denzel. He's going to be a first-round pick. Iggy, day one, day two pick. Both excellent corners that have been locked down at Ohio State. But every time Jermaine Matthews gets on the field, he shows us something. I don't have the answer. Normally I feel like I get on here and I'm like, just put him in the game. It's not that complicated. It is complicated with this one. And I don't think I have all the answers, but it just feels like there has to be more snaps for Maine. I don't know how you get it done, but a coverage guy like that, it doesn't seem like that's someone that can sit on the bench all year. How would you rotate him in? Where would you get him in at? Do you guys think that Jermaine needs to play more snaps, or is this just these guys ahead of you, they've been here, they're good enough, we trust them. When the opportunity comes, if there's a targeting, if there's an injury, you're going to step right in and we're not going to skip a beat. But right now, you just got to wait, or do you think there's a way that they can get him more than 20 snaps a game?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've been advocating for Jermaine Matthews to play starter minutes since the preseason. I mean, I don't believe in the guys ahead of you are here. You got to wait your turn, because we look at the linebacker room and everybody's playing. And the guys ahead of some guys are better so far in the season. So I don't think it's that complicated. We've had 3 first-round corner or guys playing at first-round level plenty of times. They've all played. They've rotated. Kerry Combs gave you the blueprint. You need to go watch some old tape. Go do that. I mean, as far as Igbinosun goes, I think because his defense is so good, and just because you see him give up a couple catches, I think the criticism is a little heavy. I mean, I've seen Jordan Hancock give up just as many catches. I don't know. Do we just like him better? No one seems to mention him.
Nobody talks about that.
Yeah, no one talks about it.
He gets cooked sometimes.
A couple catches, and it happens, but it's nothing crazy. It's not like dudes getting put on a highlight tape out there. He just happened to be 10 yards back because of scheme for some odd reason and gave up a touchdown. So I think Igbinosun is fine, but I think Jermaine Matthews needs to play the same amount of snaps as everybody else did from the beginning of the season. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. Just rotate. And I don't know if they would rotate him with Denzel or with Iggy, because obviously you have 2 different skill sets there. You know what I mean? So maybe they don't want, if they were going to rotate, it would be with Denzel, and they don't want to do that because kind of Denzel is that like program guy, been here for 4 years, started off 4 years, should be a first round pick, all that good stuff. Maybe that's why they don't want to do it. But I just don't overcomplicate it, man. Just get the kid out there. I mean,
yeah, no, I agree. I feel like I'm in the same position as you guys as far as I don't have a great answer, so I can't be overcritical, because I'm like, I can't be like, put Jermaine in. I'm like, for who? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm always arguing with people that are telling me I don't know more than the coaches. Right now, I'm gladly admitting, like, despite my Hall of Fame Twitter jacket, I don't have a good answer for this one. And and to answer the question of the title, I don't think there's a concern at corner. Because when you're talking about, which first-round pick should we play? That's a spoiled argument. You know what I mean? Like, I think they should be playing another first-round pick at corner. Like, it's the most spoiled Buckeye conversation. But it is a conversation that's happening, and I feel like a lot of people are arguing about this cornerback situation. I feel like too that people are getting overly scrutinized for small mistakes that would get ignored on previous teams, but there's so little to nitpick and criticize that things that would have been ignored in years past are getting magnified and scrutinized and talked about when they don't normally deserve a 15-minute block to discuss about Ohio State's quarterbacks, when you have Tim Walton, one of the best corner coaches in the country, 2 potential first 3-round picks, more than that potentially when you talk about the younger guys on the team, an absolutely loaded class. And we're asking, is there a concern at cornerback? No. But are there questions to be answered? Probably, because I think there's things that need shored up in the cornerback room and in coverage. But again, when you're talking about there are things you need to improve on the defense, we've only given up 3 points in the second half all season. So you can only be so critical. But at the same time, I don't want to come here and just pump sunshine and rainbows for when, if it doesn't happen, then everybody said like, oh, you said this team was perfect.
And it's like, are we going to bench somebody because they happen to throw the ball their way when we're playing bend don't break defense early in the game?
Exactly.
They happen to throw the ball that way to get the ball down the field, and then we locked it down and turned the ball over, and they didn't score any points, but let's bench this player.
How dare Iggy let him catch that slant when Jim Knowles had him lined up 12 yards off the ball?
How dare you catch a tackle like you're supposed to? Like, okay.
See, our guy Rick Brick, he got it out there before I even said it. If he keeps lining up 10 yards off wide receivers, he's going to get smoked. That's just an ignorant scheme.
That's it.
Hit the nail on the head right there.
And honestly, if just to stay on this subject for just one more thing here, we're about to play against Oregon, who is a team that's literally known for like doing screens and shit. Do you want Iggy out of the game when we're playing a team like that? Because I don't. Because I think they're going to really struggle to throw those screens and all those like little short yardage plays against Iggy, because you're not going to get past him. Once you catch the ball, you're getting tackled. So
I want to switch to the other side of the ball for a moment and ask you about the offensive play calling, and just ask you where are you at with this offense in Ohio State? Do you feel like this offense is better than expected, worse than expected, or about what you expected when they hired Chip Kelly? Because when we hired Bill O'Brien, I was like, do you see these passing touchdown numbers from his last quarterbacks? Like, I don't know if we're going to be able to run the ball, but I know Jeremiah's getting his touches under Bill O'Brien. Chip Kelly seems to really be mixing it up. I mean, a great distribution across the top three of wide receivers. I mean, you saw Carnell round out the top three with 60 yards and 3 catches. You see Emeka flirting with 100 yards damn near every game. Jeremiah being Jeremiah each week. And then the creativity in the run game. I personally have loved what I've seen out of Chip Kelly. I'd give him an A plus. I feel like he makes the predictable unpredictable, if that makes sense. Even his run looks look uh, unique, exotic. They're not as bland. I talked to Cam, I talked to Chris, might even said it on the show yesterday. It felt like last year when we ran the ball, it was like some sort of zone run scheme or stretch to the boundary. Like it's the only things that we saw. No creativity, no motion. My favorite play that I saw this past week was an RPO that was it was like almost like a fake toss, and then he ended up like throwing a screen to the same person that he threw the fake toss to. And I'm like, just that type of play calling, just the not just your hand it off and run straight into the back of the line type of offensive play calling. I've loved that level up that we've seen from it. And a lot of us talked in the offseason, is this level up in the run game going to come from what Chip does with the offensive linemen and help Justin Fry get this offensive line right? But I think this play calling scheme and just the diversity of it has done wonders for this offense so far.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I said it in the preseason when you said, "What are you looking forward to most?" It wasn't Jeremiah Smith, it wasn't Caleb Downs, it was Chip Kelly, and the creativity in this offense. I mean, that's a asinine take with what Jeremiah Smith did last Saturday, but that's what I said. So I thought the creativity was the one thing Ryan Day was lacking in his play calling. I mean, we've seen Lincoln Riley go out and scheme stuff up. We've seen Tennessee go out and scheme stuff up, and Ryan Day, it always felt like a little bit bland or just a little bit like, man, we got some athletes out here, just kind of get them in space and let them go. And Chip Kelly's like, did you call me? Hold my beer, I got you. So definitely I've loved the way it's looked early in the season, and I know Chip is really, in a couple weeks, is really about to get in his bag as we get into these bigger games. You can just see like a little bit like, wow, I haven't seen that before, and every week it feels that way. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from Chip Kelly right now.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think it's even like the way we're talking about it is even understating what Chip Kelly has brought to this offense. Like Ron was talking about the run game before, and it was literally just stretched to the boundary over and over and over again. And occasionally they would mix in something else and it would hit for 20 yards, and then we would run stretch to the boundary and get stopped again. And Chip Kelly has been so multiple with his run game that it's literally creating explosive plays. It's not just the fact that we can get 5 to 7 yards every single play. It's the fact that anytime our running backs get the ball in their hand, that might be a touchdown. And we haven't had that in so long. You know, you got to think back to probably 2019, 2020, the last time we had that. So what Chip is doing is crazy. And I think that one thing that a lot of people didn't notice is this past weekend, while even myself, I was saying, like, why are we throwing the ball so much? Our run game is crazy. I think a lot of people didn't notice that this past weekend was really like the first time that they actually married in Ryan Day's passing offense and a lot of the things he likes to do with Chip Kelly's run game. So if you notice, we were throwing a lot of those, 15, 20-yard out routes, which that's like a staple of Ryan Day's offense. And Will Howard, I mean, to his credit, he made those throws when he needed to. He was hitting Emeka, and he threw a couple dots to him. One of them was a 4th down play, went for a touchdown. Another one went for like 20-something yards. I think this offense with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day cooking the way that they are, I think it's going to be unstoppable. But we got a big test this weekend. We haven't played a defense like Iowa's yet. You know what I mean? So I need to see that continue. And, I think Iowa will at least be able to take away one part of the offense. And that's something we haven't had so far. You know what I mean? So that's where I want to see how they respond when a team takes away the, short passes. What are you going to do? Are you going to be able to throw it deep and also still continue to run the ball? Or if someone takes away the run, are you going to be able to open up the run by getting the ball downfield? So, there's still some question marks there. But, I mean, the way that the run game has been cooking and with how multiple Chip has been in the run game, I don't know, man. I think this offense is just going to continue getting better and better as the year goes on, even as we're playing better defenses.
Running out of time here, Q. I want to pitch that question to you before we get out of here. What do you expect to learn from this offense against Iowa this week? We talked about how multiple we've been in the run game. We've talked about the ability to house short passes. We've seen the struggles that Will has had with the deep ball. What do you want to see out of the best defensive test that we're seeing? Our guy Fisherman just said Iowa is the number 4 rush defense in the country. What do you want to see out of this play calling? What do you want to see out of this offense? How do you want to see them tested this week? And what would be a passing performance from you?
Yeah, Fisherman read ahead in my show notes. I want to see this run game sustained. We've talked about how good these guys have been per carry, week in, week out. We talked about the power run game and how Chip has married it into this offense. I just want to see that consistent. I want to see his offensive line continue to move bodies. It's going to be a little bit harder this week. I expect Iowa to make it tough and, like Terry said, take something away. We know we can win on those one-on-one matchups because Iowa just doesn't have the guys in the secondary to match up these guys. But then the front seven, they're going to make it very, very tough. So I want to see that run game just continue to be consistent and then see our guys go win on the edge. I think if we continue to run at 5-6 yard per carry clip, that is a win in Ohio State's heart.
Yeah, I told my manager. Oh, go ahead, Terry.
No, you go ahead, Ryan. You're good. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I told my manager last week he's just going to have to wait for Terry, but next week that I lock in and be at my meeting on time. So I hate to cut the show short, but we're going to have to make this a regular appearance, man, because we run long every time we have our guy Terry on here because we have so much to get to. Our guy, I'm glad our guy Doug with a chat here. I'm like malfunctioning trying to read and get through the outro. I'm late, but catching it live. Glad to see Terry. What happened last Wednesday with the Fans Edge, Mike had a family emergency, so we had to move the show. But the boys will be back this week, right, Terry?
Oh, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow.
Fans Edge tomorrow night at 7:30. A big thank you to our guy Terry for joining us. Terry, Q, let the people know where they can find you.
Terry, you go first.
Yep, you can find me at CFB_stop on Twitter. And then on the Fans Edge every Wednesday at 7:30. Go on, Q. Let's get Ron out of here.
Yeah, man, y'all know where to find me. I'm not hard to find. Make sure you like the video on Twitter, retweet in the community as well, and hit those YouTube likes before you get out of here. Ron.
Yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at 2Tees. It's 2_TEES. On Twitter, you can find me here weekdays at 8 a.m. for the Buckeye Roast. Wednesdays, you can find me at 5 p.m. on Bleacher Report. And then Saturdays, you can catch me on the Menace Sports platform for the best damn college pregame show. There was something that I wanted to get to before I got out of here. Our members, shout out to our members, Charles Green and Doreen. Appreciate you guys always supporting. A shout out to Emily for always posting us on the timeline. We appreciate all of you guys that tune in every morning and choose to start your morning here with the Buckeye Roast. And you know how this ends, fellas. Go Bucks and O-H.
I-O.
Yeah.